Hey, welcome to the Backyard Professor Live Sunday afternoon. We're going to do it this afternoon instead of tonight. Hopefully, folks have their notifications on. I tried to give you a thumbnail early enough on that you could see that. The Tedescos have a very busy schedule today. We had a fantastic planning meeting yesterday. They said they could come on for a little while today. They'll be here in just a few minutes. So I am excited about what they're proposing to do in a series. First off, a little house cleaning subjects. I did get my hotel booked for Contact in the Desert. I did get a silly looking picture of myself for the name tag. They won't let you in without that. And looks like all systems are go. I'm very excited about it. Again, thank you so much for all your patronage and support. I do try to bring to the table good information, and man, have I got a whopper with this new series coming up. Yellowstone Park is the theme. I can't seem to push my chair back. Yellowstone Park is the theme. I saw a place where one of the tourists put on a winter coat and sat his sorry ass down into one of the hot pools. If you are a tourist to Yellowstone Park, don't be so damn stupid. Show a little proper respect and quit doing dumb antics. Yes, it'll get you in the news. Hopefully, it'll get your butt thrown in jail for about 5 years for being such an idiot. So on more news on Yellowstone, we do have the first buffalo goring because someone stupidly tried to take a selfie with the buffalo and pet the fluffy white cows. Knock it off. They're wild animals. They're going to hit you and throw you up into a tree or trample you to death. It's amazing that tourists don't realize that, but they're only 10 times bigger and 100 times stronger than you are, so just be wise would be my sincere advice, or else give us some Darwin Awards and go ahead and go up there and fight the grizzly bear because you think you're a macho. Sure, yeah, show us your stuff. You bet. Anyway, hey, it looks like Project 708 UFO Research is here. Welcome. Looks like my friend from Australia, UFO Busters, is here. Welcome to all of you. Yeah, that's interesting. I will. Looks like the Tedescos are here backstage. I will. Project 708. Hold on, I got to pull off my glasses. The sphere did scan my valley. I recorded it 2 times within 8 days in infrared. That's what we're going to be talking about today, dude. Yeah. Thanks to the Tedesco Brothers, I learned how to do it. Right on. Well, let's bring them on and tell them about your adventures. That is cooler than all get out. Hello, everybody. Welcome. All right. Let's bring on our friends of this channel, the Tedesco Brothers. How are we today?
Doing good today. How's it going? Glad to be back.
Yeah, it is good to have you back. Good friends of the channel are always welcome back. I love your setting, man. You're outside. It's raining like cats and dogs at my place. I don't dare step outside.
Yeah, it's starting to here. It's coming here too.
Oh, is it? All right. Well, if you get wet, put up an umbrella or whatever.
Hopefully not.
Hey, it looks like one of my good friends, Project 708, is beginning to shoot things in infrared. And they say they learned the idea from you. So way to go. Your influence is spreading into the public.
Perfect.
That's cool. Okay, so they're asking already. I have my own theories, but are we going to get to learn how they fly today? What we're going to do today, you guys, is this series that we're having, we're going to have other guests besides the Tedescos, other scholars whom they're dealing with eventually. And today is basically a prelude, more or less. And we want to cover some what we would consider a critical component of understanding everything the rest of what the Tedescos are going to talk about in upcoming issues, features, and this is information that probably some of you are aware of in my audience, but most of us may not be. We just want to make sure the bases are covered. And here is why, based on the work that Jerry and John are doing, it helps nullify the problem of two items that are related: fuzzy pictures of UFOs and clear pictures of UFOs, and fuzzy pictures of video recordings and clear pictures of video recordings, all of which constantly are nowadays disbelieved. So this is quite remarkable. It just appears that there are some people who, no matter what evidence you show them, they're just not going to believe anything. So they can go their own way and continue disbelieving. We're not going to worry as much about them as more about the serious inquisitive people who say, okay, where can we move this from here? Where do we go from here? Before we go anywhere, we have to know where we are with the state of the art. And that is why I have these two magnificent scientific UFO researchers with me today. They're going to share some items with us. So, you guys, it is your time on stage. Take it away and give us some basics on the techniques, the ideas that you guys are rummaging around with on the, I would presume, the infrared in conjunction with the radar findings, and these people that you found who have contacted you, or at least mentioned you, and you contacted them, and you guys are wanting to get together on our show. And
yes,
so take it away, gentlemen.
All right, so we wanted to show some photographs of various images of aircraft and people and different objects in both in different ranges of the infrared, from long wave to near IR to some short wave. And John will take it away. Right.
Now, once again, would you explain what FLIR IR is and how that works?
FLIR is the acronym stands for is forward-looking infrared. Oh. And this is the kind of these are thermal cameras. This is typical of what the what you saw with the U.S. naval pilots had shown with the gimbal and the tic tac objects. They were filming it with what's called an ATFLIR. It's an advanced targeting forward-looking infrared system, and this is produced by Raytheon. It's actually a really good system, and that's the image you see. That looks kind of out of focus, but there's a reason it's not in focus. It's not using obviously you're not taking invisible light. You're taking thermal energy from the object, and that's what these cameras are for.
Right. With FLIR, you're dealing with thermal energy.
Yes, and there is a very distinct difference in sensor technologies when you're using the various different aspects of infrared. I've heard, some folks bring up that, it basically all falls into the infrared category. It's a heat signature. That's true, but that's not the way the detectors themselves, sense those changes. Some of them are actually using wavelengths of light, and for those particular sensors, we're talking about near infrared, and they're generally like anywhere between 750 on up to about 1,000 nanometers, and then you have something that's a little bit higher than that. You have shortwave infrared. Shortwave infrared takes you up above that, generally up above 1,000 and as much as 2,600 nanometers. Then you start to go into to a temperature scale. You start to go into a different type of detector. That's the mid-band infrared. and the long wave infrared systems. And they're generally, the mid band is around 3,000 to about 7,000, 7,500 nanometers. And then you're into the deeper, the long wave. That takes you from 8,000 to 14,000 nanometers, or most of the time they talk them as microns, 8 microns to 14 microns.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the long wave. Now those are mirrored surfaces. They don't see any light at all. That's the whole idea with those lenses is to block light, reflect it back, and basically conduct the thermal signature or thermal wavelength into the optics and then across the sensor. Very, very, very different technology. Of course, we have to be, conscious of that. I mean, again, it's a mixed bag as far as sensors. Very, very different sensors for every aspect of that. The shortwave infrared. What's interesting about that is it doesn't have much reflective characteristics when it comes to something that's like water or something that's wet. Very, very little reflective characteristics. So that comes back as dark. If you're looking at the ocean with shortwave infrared, that the water itself would just be a dark surface.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
So apparently this we the public, John Q. public,
mm-hmm.
We know that the Navy and the Air Force and the militaries have access to being able to use this on a super advanced scale, these extra wavelengths for detecting an opposition or an enemy.
Yeah.
But I guess the public has access to this type of technology also now to begin taking videos, photographs, etc.
Yes, but very expensive. Very expensive, especially it has to be a midwave infrared.
Midwave is more expensive.
You're still talking cameras that are in excess of $10,000.
And when you're talking about the FLIR cameras, like John mentioned, you're talking midwave infrared to long wave infrared, and that's interpretation. Even some of the IR, the shortwave IR, is also you have to. You also understand what you're seeing. There's some interpretation in there.
Right. And that mid-band infrared, that's a mixed technology in there. That's why it's so expensive. It's not just you're not just using like a microbolometer or something along those lines, which is a thermal sensor in the front for the long wave. This is a combination where it's actually designed to be used at the other wavelengths, at lower wavelengths. In this case, they would be a little bit higher, but the sensitivity, they do look. If you look at them, they do look like looking at a FLIR camera, very similar, but a little bit of a cross between something that's in the near infrared and the long wave. So you'll see those subtle differences in there. A lot more detail too.
Our friend Project 708 UFO Research says I was recording with 850 nanometers with the HIC Micro Pro Habrock HX60L. I mean, fancy name and all, but so is that a good range? Would you classify that as mid-range, high-range?
That's a near infrared. That's a near infrared
sensor. And when you say near infrared, you mean as far as near distance wise? It can't go out as far.
It has to do with
just beyond the visible light.
Yes. You're just going outside the visible light now into the infrared. It's the early part of the infrared.
Yeah, the red portion of the visible spectrum. Once that reaches a point, there's a threshold level. That threshold typically 750, 800 nanometers, where we don't see it anymore. It becomes invisible to our eyes. But a lot of cameras today, and it doesn't matter, cell phone cameras or whatnot, they are all sensitive. They're infrared, near infrared sensitive. And they're also UV sensitive.
Cell phones are now?
Yeah. They're
got my brand new one for my contact in the desert. I know they've improved the camera quality by more than double, thank goodness. But it's still not a 70,000 power telescope, dang it. But I'll have to check into that option. No kidding.
Right.
Okay.
So it kind of skirts. It kind of skirts the UV. It skirts a little bit more of the IR, so it allows you to see that invisible light. The UV, it's you might have sensitivities down below the 400 nanometers, something that's around 375, 365. So you might have some sensitivity to that. But then you're going into a little bit further down the line, you're going into UVB, which is a wavelength that's given off by the sun. That's what causes the sunburns. So that's a different kind of thermal heating. And then, of course, below that is UVC, which is more in the way of what's given off by plasmas, coronal discharges, and also the kind of stuff that's used for, by biological sterilization too. UVC is a really good sterilizer. They're used in hospital theaters and that sort of thing. Yes, so it kills bacteria, or it kills fungus, and anything that's pretty much that live on surfaces. There's UVC lights that produce that. They also produce ozone. That's a byproduct of it, is ozone. But again, with this kind of technologies, this is all within the electromagnetic spectrum. And what we do out in the field is try to gather as much of the electromagnetic spectrum as possible. So we do have systems that are in the UVC band, the UVB, UVA. Then the visible light, that's short little narrow band of wavelength, or visible light wavelength, which is generally from 400 to about 700 nanometers. And above that is, of course, we go into the invisible light, the infrared, and of course, the short wave, the mid and long wave, which is all heat.
And the thing with the why we want to look at as much of the electromagnetic spectrum as possible is because human beings have a very narrow range of what we sense and what we see. It's less than 1% of the entire electromagnetic spectrum. You could certainly have objects that it can exist in different ranges of the spectrum, which we just won't see or sense.
Right. And the other thing to remember is that even in visible light, there's a refraction index with the lenses themselves that, the wavelengths, based on its wavelengths, the rays themselves, the beams of light will actually bend, and in some cases they'll bend even more based on its wavelength. So
that say the lens of the camera, based on its shape, is going to bend the light, and that's called the what? The refractive index.
Refractive index. So you'll have different.
Does that distort stuff?
Yes, this is with any camera. Any a lens system in there, you have a thicker portion in the center, and it's much narrower on the outside. So the light has a habit of bending. It's bending in such a way to basically focus that field onto the image,
so to speak. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And
of course,
yes,
and wavelength can change that. So in some cases you'll see fringing and that sort of thing. So they try to keep the optics within a certain bandwidth, because outside that bandwidth, although the image sensor is capable of receiving all that stuff, it would cause blooming, it would cause fringing effects, almost like misconvergence of the colors inside the CCD, the imager itself. But this is also what causes your distortions when you're looking at an object that changes its chromatic appearance. I know a lot of us, when we look at blue light, the blue light can be irritating to the eyes, and it's also difficult to see. I know if you walk into the other day, I walked into a restaurant that had used blue lighting, and it was almost blinding. It was.
Well, they didn't want you to see what their food looked like.
Yes, maybe like
they're a blue light restaurant.
There's a method to the madness.
Unless it's UV light.
but
so you said you have some picture comparisons of what?
Yes. But again, that blue light is everything seems to be out of focus. It blooms, and you'll see that's an aberration. That's a chromatic aberration, in the lensing itself. But an object that would, go towards a blue shift and that sort of thing, that's where, focus might not seem to be optimal, simply because of these reflective characteristics of the lens. There's also some other stuff going on that, we'll be talking about, of course, is is the gravitational lensing that we believe is going on around these objects. So, to make matters worse, these objects, if they are undergoing some kind of gravidity changes, gravitational changes around them, they're producing a lensing effect, a gravitational lens, and that lensing is making everything so much worse. And that's responsible for the whole electromagnetic field being distorted, not just visible light.
Okay, can I interject just briefly, just as kind of a teaser for a future episode for my audience? Let me just ask you point blank on this. So you're saying, just a simple yes or no, and I'll go into my next part of the question. You're saying that you have detected things in the sky that potentially have gravitational lensing.
Yes, we have several data points that suggest that.
Okay, now the second part of my question is, do weather balloons do this effect? Do they have this effect?
No,
they don't.
No, they actually have to change that the gravity itself, the space-time in between. That's the fabric of space.
You have to warp space-time. Yeah,
you have to warp.
Weather balloons won't do that.
No,
will satellites moving through the air, will they do that?
No.
They won't. Why? Because they're going too slow?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing too is that you'd have to be, when astronomers look out into deep space, they're looking at stars past large massive bodies in there, and these massive bodies, because of their gravitational effects, they have a tendency to bend the light, and they cause this lensing effect. And it's been explored many different ways. Einstein had several names for them. The Einstein circle. There's a few others as well, and they've been able to document this stuff. And even objects that would appear ordinarily, that should appear like a star, a round star, they're actually elongated. They're stretched out because of gravitational lensing.
So you're saying, I just want to make this crystal clear because I'm noticing something that can be exquisitely powerful with your research here. You can distinguish the difference on another basis besides just a personal hope. Oh man, I hope that thing going by is a UFO.
Right.
Through this idea of a gravitational lensing, you can distinguish fundamentally between it being a balloon and an anomaly, or between a satellite and an anomaly, or between the space station and an anomaly. You believe your equipment can make that utter distinction.
Yeah, they'll appear quite different, especially instrumentally.
So that is very good news. That is interesting. We have yet another way, rather than just wishful thinking or, oh no, that's just a fake video because it's blurry, when you're using a different type of equipment. Right. Okay, good. I just want to make sure.
And at this point, there is a lot of speculation in there as well.
Oh, sure, of course. Of course. Oh, hey, speaking of which, and I'm not trying to interrupt you because this is so fascinating, but on just a brief side note, let me ask you something. Just your personal opinion. Do you is the evidence that we have for I don't know if it's even best anymore to call them UFOs or UAPs as opposed to anomalies, because from our visual perspective, you can invent and imagine, even worse, imagine that, oh my gosh, that's an anomaly that I saw, when in fact it may be perfectly natural. Is the evidence for the UAP, UFO, is it very good? Do you think your work can help strengthen the idea that, yes, world, we really do have genuine anomalies based on more criteria that we use besides just camera work and video work? Do you think you're gathering valid evidence for UFOs?
Well, yes, we know we're not alone. We know we're not alone. There are other groups out there that are finding some interesting and fascinating details with the observations that they're making. In our case, it's instrumented data. It's radar returns that we've been looking at quite a bit and exploring that. It's also the reflected light, and the light that's given off by these objects as well. We see something that seems to be chromatic changes around the object, and they're defined by color, and many times, and you can see these blue shifting and red shifting. We'll also see almost like dark areas that we suspect might be gravity wells around these objects, and they're very, very defined dark areas as these objects are rotating and moving. This is the kind of stuff that we've been observing over the past 3 to 4 years that we've been out there doing this research. But the most interesting thing is the odd radar returns, the odd propagation of the radar signals. Now, as I was saying before, is that the electromagnetic spectrum includes everything. It's the visible light, it's the radio waves, it's heat, it's ionizing radiation. Everything is under this heading of the spectrum. And if it's doing something to one, it's got to be doing it to the rest. It's got to be doing it no matter where you are on the electromagnetic
that's
line.
it's all
whatever crosses that boundary, whether it's radio waves or light,
Right.
it's going to distort it.
Right. So if whatever you're seeing that's happening to light, we can bet that the fact that radio waves is probably behaving in a very similar fashion.
That makes sense, because it's not like they're whole separate units. It's a spectrum.
Right.
That's why they call it the electromagnetic spectrum.
And that would be
real quick before you show those pictures. Sure. Just recently, and doggone it, I can't remember who it was that said this. Someone said, well, Robert Sheep from Custodian File called me and told me, hey, so-and-so just admitted on, and it was a big, who was it? Doggone it. Someone said, it was on, I think it was Ross Coulthart.
Mm-hmm.
One of the new whistleblowers said, no, it was on George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell. It was the new whistleblower, I do believe. He said, now they've come out and they've officially mentioned the writer of the paper, The Immaculate Conception.
Matthew Brown, I think.
Yes.
He said, we have pictures now of vortex in the universe. We have seen a vortex. Would this be similar to, correct me if I'm wrong, you reminded me when you said the gravitational well, because of the distortion in the gravity, would another name for that possibly be vortex? Are we just getting off into wild science fiction, or is this an actual plausibility now?
Well, that's a descriptive term, vortex. I mean, you could call a vortex a kind of vortex, a distortion around an opening or a distortion around an object.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure there's other more favorable terms that can be used for it. But no matter how you look at it, it is a distortion, as if something that you were looking through a lens. If you're looking at an object through a lens, and it almost looks like a funhouse mirror at times. And, you can see you can stretch the face. You can see these even in the mirrors, the reverse mirrors and that sort of thing, where it's actually magnifies your face. That's exactly what these gravitational lenses are doing. They're producing the very similar effects, and that same characteristics again that we see in the visible part of the spectrum is also carrying through with the radio part, the microwave, the heat signatures as well, all the way on up, as including ionizing radiation. I mean, like I said, from one end of the spectrum to the other, that's causing this kind of an effect. The fact that we're seeing these weird propagations by our radar returns, and this is something that's been explored and tried to explain. Many people have tried to explain it for a long period of time. It goes back to the 1920s, where radio people radio engineers, where they would have these odd returns that would come back late, some cases seconds apart, and for something to come back that late at the speed of light is extremely unusual. They talked about ducting in the atmosphere, but the problem with the ducting theories is that with everything, as it travels, it attenuates. The signal diminishes, and then you end up getting diminished returns. When we see these signals with radar, and some of these radio waves that were recorded, there's been extremely low attenuation, in some cases no attenuation at all.
Yeah, it's just as strong going out as coming back. But we're talking long delay echoes.
Long delay echoes.
Yeah, the phenomenon is called long delay echoes.
Yeah, and we wrote a paper about
it. You did a good thing discovering radio waves. Interesting. Right. So,
yeah, this was anomalous.
That's another reason to try to get off into other areas of detection, because it does change the effect not only of chromatic aberration, but of also what was that term you just called? The radio
long delay LDEs, they call them LDEs. Yeah, long delay echoes.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah,
so we're getting, it appears to me, and I'm going to say this for the benefit of all of us who want it right now, but it's a process, and I'm the most impatient of us all, and I'm working on this. I promise, Scout's honor. But this process must take time, because you do some detection with a video issue. And,
yes.
I know that takes time. I've been out on my camera, and you do some other detection with radar, and then some other detection with radio, and then some other detection with infrared, and then you have to take all those different signals and their differing effects on space and time and light and heat and integrate it. But it sounds to me like you're pretty positive that there is something going on, and we very well could be dealing with the phenomenon in interesting ways that will help verify it, even though we don't have, quote, clear evidence. Maybe we do, we're just misreading it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and this is the reason also that we've expanded our inventory of multispectral equipment. We call it hyperspectral camera systems or hyperspectral detectors. This is something that we've been working on, and it's we've actually had to add to our collection and get better sensors, more sensitive sensors, in order to be able to distinguish some of these differences. Recently we had posted on our website and on LinkedIn as well, some of the spectral equipment that we're in an engineering phase right now, that we're actually designing and hopefully help out other researchers as well that is looking for this kind of equipment. Specific novel sensors that we've been able to do our homework with and find out the best options. Good curves, good QE curves, what they call them, and look at this stuff and be able to quantify and look at this spectrum in accordance with specific wavelengths.
Is your website nightcrawler.eyeonthesky.org?
That's correct. Yes.
Let me put that down at the bottom. You guys, there it is. There is the website that you want to go to, Nightcrawler. I don't. Do you separate the words, or does it matter?
No, it's all one.
Yeah, it's an all domain, one domain.
eyeonthesky.org. This is the Tedesco's website. Go to that. Let me ask you real briefly. You've wrote peer-reviewed papers. Are those available on your website?
Yes. As a matter of fact, the one paper which is specifically on gravitational lensing, long delay echoes, is published on there. They can read the paper on the webpage, and it's also in PDF form too. That we provided hyperlinks to.
Awesome. Okay, good.
Yeah. So this is, and that's of course this is some of the detectors that that we've been putting
That's
together.
just a flashlight. Don't give me that noise. That is a cool look.
And
What is that?
What makes the flashlight different is the multiple detectors that are inside.
Oh no! Now is that one you guys made?
Yes. This is one of the detectors. This thing has UVC, UVB, UVA. It has near infrared, it has shortwave infrared, and it also does some of the visible light. But it's a data logging capability as well. So you can look at that response.
This is what we call a qualitative instrument. This quantitative is the actual measurements of the levels and percentages. But this is a qualitative, so it's a detection device. So if we're looking at an object, we can determine if it's emitting ultraviolet radiation or infrared or and different ranges of infrared.
Right,
so
and we have
record with that instrument. This might be important too. Could you record all of those different styles all at once on one thing, so that it's almost integrated and unified, so that makes your work comparing it easier? Can you do that with that?
Yes. As a matter of fact, Joel, I don't know if you can grab that unit right there.
Now that is rocking
cool.
So we've
actually
with
we actually have a sensor. So we actually have a sensor system that it's a data logging capability. It monitors all those sensors. It outputs out to a computer. It's data logged over time. It's also got a centralized camera inside, and the centralized camera is an infrared camera. So as you're looking at these presentations of objects, you have a whole bunch of sensors around it in an orbit around the camera, and every one of those sensors is taking data and logging it out on their own data streams. So it's this thing is tied, again, it's tied to a computer. We have multiple views. We have camera view, and we have every one of those sensors that we can look over time to see exactly what that object is influencing. Is it the infrared? Is it UV? So we're monitoring all that stuff.
This is our third generation system.
That is so fucking cool. That rocks, man. That is so awesome. So show us some of this. Give us some of your examples on the infrared and the and the regular. I'm just curious. What do you mean?
I want to say one thing to the public. If you could go online, if you don't understand what we're talking about, the electromagnetic spectrum, you can actually look at graphs. There's graphs online that'll show you the entire spectrum and what those ranges of wavelengths are.
Oh, cool.
So you get an idea what that means.
And that's on your website.
Yeah, it should be on the website, but and you can look it up online. Just to type in a graphic for the electromagnetic spectrum.
Oh, of course, yeah, duh, yeah. Good point. Okay.
Let's see. We got to present. Just give me a second here. Let's go back.
So I would propose, while you're looking, you keep looking. You don't have to answer me. I'm just jabbering.
Right.
I would propose that it's irrelevant whether something is clear or fuzzy, whether it's far away or close up, and clear and or fuzzy would be irrelevant, because now that we have multispectral analysis, the conjunction of the different types of recordings and captures verifies something is there. It also helps distinguish between, or it helps distinguish better between our own technology as opposed to if something is genuinely anomalous. Because, I mean, still the go-to response from everyone literally is, oh, weather balloon. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, that's just a satellite. Oh, that's the space station. You know, they're just waving it off in a way, I think, too flippantly. And so this work can help us correct that. Okay, so let me, looks like you
Okay,
sent.
so, yeah, I'm sending them this way. Let me see if we can get it.
That's
All this
awesome.
here. Let's see.
Then there's that one.
Okay, so the first one you see, that's the camera we just, the detector we just showed you. This is the, of course, this is the quad view, which has got the camera in the center, and you'll see there's a computer there. We're actually logging it at this point. We're at the Robert Moses State Park, looking at something that was had a little bit of an interesting show, and we actually did have detections that night. We had some interesting changes in the UV.
It will go directly from your camera that's pointing at the sky directly into that computer.
Yes. So what you'll get a split screen. You'll get a bunch of waveforms, data logging waveforms from every sensor, and then underneath that, or to the wherever you want to place that image on the screen, you can see the object that's in the field of view.
And what's this? You showed us this too, didn't you?
Yes, that one also, and I'll put a couple more, and then I'll pull it down.
Is this another angle of it, or is this something different?
Okay, so this is something different. This is a portable millimeter wave radar system. So they have a 3 mile range, maximum range. They're low power devices. They generally run around 10 milliwatts, and these radars are Doppler radars. So if there's an object that's moving within the field of view, well, we can detect that movement up to, an object the size of a car up to about a mile.
Oh, no kidding, a mile out, huh?
Yes. Yep. And we'll get
do the UAP. Do you think the UAP come within that range? Do you think, have you had them closer to you than
some of the objects we've observed? Yes.
That played peekaboo with you. That was pretty close.
Yes.
Right on the beach,
yeah.
right?
It was within that range. Yep.
God, that was a great video. I still love that video, man.
Right. And you'll see that
so these are all portable handheld radars,
right? And you'll see
you've got headphones. This is your stereo system.
Yes, it's quite a stereo. so this is the frequencies might be a little annoying. But,
yeah. So this is your Doppler radar. Basically, you're gonna get a Doppler sound effect as an object moves past the radar. It moves within the scanning of the radar. Within that field. So it's and that motion is equated to, the frequency is equated to speed. So you can get exact these velocity changes. We can actually get speed characteristics.
Oh, nice. Let me ask you point blank. Have you recorded anything that you think is pretty spectacularly interesting with speed?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we have.
How fast?
It's unfortunately faster than the radar could actually pick up, but you can hear that.
Really?
You can hear that squeal in the Doppler, and that squeal would go from 85 miles an hour and the miles per hour up to the ending, the limits of the radar, which is 200, and surpass that. So we know it was moving a lot faster.
Do you have that on a recording?
Yes, we do.
We'll have to put that in the series, please. That would be fascinating.
The other thing is we also graph the autoacoustic fingerprints, so we can do our own analysis based on the graphic positions where it lies.
Oh yeah, you could on different items that you record.
Yes.
Oh yeah. How interesting. All right, look at this. Okay, so I just asked you about this one. Is this graph from that instrument or something else?
Yeah, so this is from that instrument. So we're looking at the computer right now. It's being downloaded. This is in real time. So we're looking at, if you notice the various different colors, each one of those color traces represents a different sensor within the unit. The one that you're looking at there is actually UV. So there was some UV changes out there. And this is not just UV, it's not UVB, this is UVC, which is very interesting because the only thing that produces UVC is a coronal discharge or a plasma.
So is that I see a yellow line that's kind of a blippy thing, that really erratic, gorgeous baby blue line.
Yep.
Then there's a purple line below that.
Exactly.
Is each one of those a different
wavelength and a different sensor.
Okay.
Yes.
So why would that blue one be so energetic? How would you interpret that for us? What does that mean?
So when we're looking at this, we see this kind of activity. This is in the UVC. This is in the UVC part of the spectrum. And we got some interesting detections from objects that were out on the water. And UVC, normally something like that presents by again, it's either a plasma or a coronal discharge, an electrical discharge of some sort, which produces this type of radiation or this type of wavelength. And it's within a band called it's 194 to 225 nanometers. So it's a very specific band.
Would that be like the K band or the M band or whatever?
It's called the UVC band.
Oh, the UVC.
UVC, yeah. So
You're
UV.
saying this is an object that came out of the water.
This is an object that was transversing back and forth over the ocean at an altitude of roughly we believe it was around 400 feet.
Is that why the blue has such sharp spikes? Is that entering back into the water and then coming back out? Erratic.
Yeah, in this case, we didn't actually observe it entering the water at all. It's just that it presented itself. It presented itself as something that we would classify as a possible orb. You know, we could see this chromatic changing, this chromatic shifting around the object. It was in rotation, and we could see blue shift, red shift, and you know, at times when this thing was you'd see these changes in luminosity, we'd get these transient spikes. That was an indication that this could have been very well have been a UVC wavelength, UVC radiation.
And I got a comment on that.
Okay, so real quick, to shift for a basis of contrast, do satellites ever exhibit this behavior if you were to test them?
No,
they
have
UVC
chart.
UVC would never get through the atmosphere, never get through the cloud.
Yeah, UVC is blocked. Almost 96% of the UVCs.
So this can't be. This can't be a satellite. Would a weather balloon ever do something like this?
Nothing like
that.
No,
nothing man-made. No aircraft would produce this. No boat would produce this. This is unique. It's something plasmatic.
Right. So you have layers like ozone and so forth within the atmosphere that blocks most of this UVC from reaching the surface of the Earth, which would be very harmful if it was. There's very small indications at times. You know, especially with a CME event or something like that. It's you have very, very small observations, a very small traceable amounts, but nothing that would send this detector off. In the kind of sensitivity that it's displaying there.
You're telling me that whatever it was. When did you do this? What's the date here? Is that this year?
That's this year.
This year.
Yes.
Okay, so you're telling me whatever it was that caused this is definitely a signal. I mean, we can all see that something was happening.
Yes.
Yeah, we couldn't
line.
exactly. Like I said, we never look at a single data point. We look at a bunch of data points, whether it's radar or spectrum analysis or acoustics, and we narrow it down. That's how we eliminate the prosaics. So now we got something that's anomalous, and
there you go. That's the word I was looking for. So you can verify, and we can see.
Yes.
Prosaic stuff does not present this stuff.
No,
right.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And
I mean, if okay, let me ask you briefly. What if, gentlemen, you have been misunderstanding, and it was an aircraft, an Air Force fighter jet? Would it produce something like that?
No.
Well, we can qualify that. It could, if the afterburners are running, and we were actually looking at the back of the aircraft and looking at the afterburners.
Right, and we have to get beyond the nozzle, the engine nozzle. And so John's right. We have to be the afterburners running, and you would hear a fighter jet.
Right. So
you didn't hear anything with this.
No, and the fighter jet would be on radar. It would also be tracked on radar.
Right. And I mean, this would have to be an open flame.
You
it would
can
have to be.
eliminate. You can logistically eliminate that this is a fighter jet or a helicopter or what have you. Right?
Can you repeat that?
I'm sorry.
I say
Terry
you
just broke up.
This chart eliminates that this was a fighter jet or a helicopter or something.
Yes.
Yes.
Because we're looking at, like I said, we're looking at several data points. We're looking at radar. We're looking at ADS-B transponder data. We're looking at we're looking at radio frequencies for communication.
We're looking at forward-looking infrared FLIR cameras. We're actually with an optical zoom. So we're looking at the fuselage. We're looking at the engines and see if they're producing anything. Is it possible there's a flame out that can produce something like that? Yeah, it's possible.
And that would show up on a thermal. A fighter jet gets the engines are intensely hot. That would
definitely show up on thermal. Yeah, especially if there was a flame out or something like that produced it. Maybe they had
the fighter jet. You would start one if you heard it. You'd be able to point this magnificent piece of equipment at the fighter jet, and you wouldn't have this effect when you're pointing it toward the fighter jet until it passes you.
Yes. So
am I understanding that correctly? So
yes.
You will see that change on this, but the change seems to be in total all the time on this one. Am I reading that
exactly?
Correct?
Yes,
exactly. Yeah. So it's and again, it's not just a flame that produces this. It has to be a specific color temperature of the flame. It would have to be in the blue, the ultraviolet. This is the kind of heat that we'd be looking for, especially the heat of a plasma. That's the kind of stuff that you'd have these kind of detections. We've had detections with, like I said, coronal discharges, telephone poles. If the transformer, the wiring is breaking down in the rain, those coronal discharges will trip these sensors.
Or a lightning strike.
Could trip the sensor.
And of course, we're looking for all that. I mean, you don't have telephone wires going over the ocean. Lightning strike. We're always looking at the weather. We have a complete weather system running.
Right. So we would have to, in that case, we would look at it very carefully, and whether or not we would have to disqualify that as a component.
Right.
So
you're telling me this could sincerely be as valuable as a video of a UAP.
Yes. Right, exactly.
Yes, it's another important data point.
And again, it's the UVC. That's invisible. That's the invisible portion. That's the invisible portion of that.
Yeah, we wouldn't see that with our eyes if we were looking at the sky.
No,
but this little baby does.
Yes, and the radar. It can be detected also on the radar, because the radar would respond to those radio waves that are being produced.
The other thing is, our approach is a forensic approach. It's forensic engineering. We want enough data that if we walked into a courtroom, we'd be able to make our case. And we have multiple data points. You want a data set full of multiple data points. it's got to be layered data to make a case.
May I ask you to do me a favor for our series, if it's possible, and maybe you've already done this, so I might be jumping the gun, but I would very, very much think it would be valuable to have you guys use these guns on just regular commercial airline jets and or helicopters if they're flying around you sometime, and whether day or night's irrelevant, and or a military jet, and keep the data, and then be able to show the comparison of the data associated with that with an anomaly. Do you have stuff like that you can show, or can you get it?
Yeah, we accumulate all that. That's when we're running. We run a bunch of tests, and all that data is actually collected. So we put it on a pile. It's on a drive.
I would like to see the comparison of that, because this appears to me to be a thunderous good way to say you can't just say, well, that's not clear enough. The heck, clear enough. You can't get it better. It doesn't have. That's pretty impressive, in my opinion. So
yes.
I'm just sharing that with my audience. It appears to me you are able to have the power of discriminating the prosaic from the anomalous, because you're doing the multispectral analysis. Wow, listen to me. I'm already talking like a scientist.
That's great. Sounds
I'm
great.
getting the lingo, baby. No, but this is really critically interesting and quite fun. And I noticed you just sent this to me. Let's keep letting you guys on talking. I don't want to talk. I want you to talk. So how come now? I will share with you the Mick West approach. Oh, bunk. It's not clear. It's dark. It's obvious that they're just moving the background. This thing isn't moving at all. That's completely hokey. All right, take it away, gentlemen. How come I should believe this?
Okay, whether or not this is a second or a third generation, whether it's been unenhanced, it's been the detail taken. We don't know that. But most of the observations that we have, and we've encountered this many times, is that we'll look for that optimal focal point, and we may be using a scenario, might be looking at the cloud-based altitude, the cloud-based data. The cloud-based altitude might be at 2,000 feet, and we're adjusting our cameras at 2,000 feet to get that crystal clear image based on that focal distance. An object would be riding just under the clouds. Although the clouds are very clear and in detail, the object sometimes never is.
I mean, we need to go back over. This is the gimbal video that the U.S. Navy took. So I just want to be clear on that, what we're talking about.
Yes. And there is an interesting halo around the object. Now, the arguments are that, the object is, I don't know if this is black hot or white hot.
Well, let's explain that.
I believe it's black hot, and there's a white temperature around it that indicates that it's colder than the rest of the atmosphere, colder than the rest of the environment. That may not be the case. We're not sure about that. This could be produced by possibly gravitational lensing, and that distortion is causing a temperature variation as well. So we can't be sure that that's actually a cold display around the object itself.
But I want to explain this now for the audience, that this is a thermal image. This is a FLIR image. We look at the heat.
Long wave.
It's set in black hot. So anything hotter is going to be darker. Anything cooler is going to be lighter in color. If you look, this whole area is dark. It's equal in temperature. And this thing is rotating like if you had something on a gimbal. It tilts back and forth. It actually it rotates upward vertically and then comes to a stop. And you can see that by the cloud layer that's running below it. It's running along that cloud layer.
Interesting.
Now Mick West is claiming this is the back of the aircraft, and he's saying you get a lens glare. So we should be seeing two circular areas of heat because of the intensity of the engines in the rear, the contrails or the afterburners of the two engines, of the twin engines coming from the nozzle. We'll see two intense heat sources. We don't see that.
Right. And the other thing
So
too
that
is that,
dark object with this flare is showing us without question that that's not heat. There's no heat coming out of it.
And this doesn't resemble any aircraft that we've seen. The configuration is all wrong.
Me either. It looks more like Batman from a distance, the bat signal.
right. And we also have to understand too that there's been a lot of instrumented data on this. This is being followed by some of the ships, some of the aircraft in flight, their own radar systems, AWACS. Everybody's looking at this. This is not something that it's just put out there and you said we really can't address this with our own technologies. They have enough technologies there and enough on it, the instrumented data, that they know exactly what. And
if you look at the reference points, like I said, the cloud layer, it's riding along the cloud layer. Nick West suggested that it's the rear of the aircraft, and that's what the pilot is seeing. But it never changes. It continues to ride laterally along this cloud layer. So unless that's an aircraft flying sideways, and you're constantly looking at the rear of it, it really doesn't make sense. And also, like I said, the heat signatures don't make sense.
Right. And there's too much mental gymnastics that's being used to try to figure all of this stuff out. It's if we incorporate all that stuff, I mean, you'd be chasing a tail.
It's also an at-flare system. It's a really good thermal system, and you'll get a clear image. For some reason, we don't see all that detail.
Right. Now the next image you have there, this is from our FLIR camera. This is a 737 out of a local airport, and it was roughly about it was in the flight path at about 4,000 feet, and we zoomed in on it. We can see the temperatures of the engines. It's black hot. You could actually see heat streams coming out of the engines, both engines, and you can see the lighting, the wing lights actually producing heat as well. Or the lamps themselves that's producing that heat. So you'll see that black hot there as well. Of course, you can see the whole fuselage, and very, very clear, lots of detail. Again, with an optical zoom FLIR camera.
And this is a good FLIR camera. Not all FLIR cameras have this kind of resolution. This is a $9,000 FLIR camera. Mm-hmm. So this has good resolution. It's got optical zoom to 30. It's got 20 times optical.
Does that work at night too? The FLIR camera.
Oh, yes, absolutely. This is not a visible image. This is a thermal image. This is the heat given off to the aircraft. All you're seeing is its thermal signature.
Right.
No light. Yeah. So at night,
wow.
So at night the light wouldn't matter. We're still going to see the same image.
Well, this is at night. This is a night image.
Okay, you're going to see it. Right. This is a night image, but you're going to see exactly the same thing whether it's day or night.
Oh wow! How fascinating is that?
And the white you see is basically the colder atmosphere around it.
Yeah, this is black hot. So anything hotter, like we said, would be because we set it for black. You could set it for white hot to be the opposite. But anything darker would be hotter.
Okay. Now this is a shortwave infrared image. So what you see is you're going to see reflective surfaces. And everything else in the atmosphere itself. There's moisture in the atmosphere, so that comes back as dark. So that's very detailed. If we looked at this through any other camera, you wouldn't be able to make it out. It's been obscured by overcast, that sort of thing. But with the shortwave infrared, we can see that.
And this is this is an airliner. It's another aircraft. Here's the fuselage. Here's the tail section. Here's the
lights.
Here's the lighting on the wings. Here's the landing lights on the bottom. Here's nose section.
This is an actual airliner.
Yes. We had tracked this.
This is not a UFO.
No. This is an airliner.
Okay, now that can be helpful for someone who's trying to throw a monkey wrench in the works and saying, see, fuzzy pictures of UFOs means they're fake and all. But we know the provenance of this. Again, it establishes the importance of provenance for photographs. But even then, at night, with a photograph that looks nothing like a jet, really, the interesting thing is it doesn't mean that plane wasn't there and it's not real.
Right. And
There's the evidence.
we're looking at this like a fingerprint. We're looking for data points. We know where the navigation lights are. Here are the navigation lights. Like I said, here's the lighting on the tail section. There's 3 lights on the tail section, bright lights. The landing lights is exactly where they should be. Here's again, we can see the outline of the fuselage. So we have plenty of data points to tell us this is an airliner.
Okay, cool. Nice. Well done.
Okay.
So what's this?
All right. So this is from our
So you took pictures of power lines. So
yes, and there's a reason for that. This is a multispectral view from our hyperspectral cameras. You're looking at there's actually should have been a 4th view, but it did incorporate the data. So, but what you're looking at, the left top, you're looking at a forward-looking infrared. That's FLIR. That's thermal, and it's red hot. It's got a red hot palette. So the power lines you're going to see are in red. You'd see that temperature. That's the warmest thing out there, and you'll see a crosshair on the one power line where the deep red is. So that crosshair is automatically going to track the hottest pixel in that image, and
that's on that thickest red line. I see it now. Yeah,
exactly. Yes,
and that's telling us that that's the hottest area. You see, it's red.
Right. The image to the right top is a near infrared image. This is taken at it wasn't twilight. It was actually a little bit. It was after twilight. It was getting dark, but you can see that the infrared produces a really nice picture. It's got lots of sensitivity to low light, and it's in the infrared. But it's a color. This is a color infrared camera, so you see everything in color.
So you're not looking for light. You're doing this with color.
Right. It's a color. The camera itself is extremely sensitive to low light, also sensitive to the infrared. But in this case here, what they want to do is they want to bring out the passive senses. They want to bring out this color, this color portion of the image.
Yeah, so it assigns the color in there.
Right. So, and then the one on the bottom, this is shortwave infrared. So shortwave infrared is going to be grayscale, black and white. You're going to see that the dark areas represent moisture in the atmosphere, because then they're not reflective. They're anything that has moisture in it is under shortwave infrared. It doesn't reflect light very well, so they come up dark. So everything else, dry areas of the atmosphere, and this may not necessarily be cloud layers. This may just be dry areas of the atmosphere that you see in white.
Yeah. So the audience may ask why we're looking at various ranges in the infrared, because each one of them tells us a different parameter of the sky we're looking at. We can compare all these together and we can get a full picture of what we're seeing in the sky based on its physical parameters.
Right. And the infrared having the wavelength down into this particular camera is from 800 to 2600 nanometers. So at the lower ends of the infrared, you can see the power lines which come up dark.
The other thing is in this the shortwave infrared here is we could tell if there's a storm system. Sometimes you can have a dark cloud, may look like something, or a lenticular cloud.
Right, might be not
and it may look like an object, it may look like a saucer, but we could tell this is moisture. Right. Because we're looking in the shortwave infrared.
And what makes shortwave infrared ideal over the water is that if we see an object coming out of the water, we have seen an object above the water, that object is probably going to be the only white source of light out there. The water is going to be completely dark. So it's very, So it's very easy to differentiate between the object and the water.
Give us great contrast, so we can differentiate the object.
Right. Also, something that would be good in water rescues too. It's to find people that are in the water.
And the military would use this, or the Coast Guard might use something like that.
Yeah, shortwave infrared.
Right. Okay. Now I'm gonna kick this from the studio. I hope it doesn't kick you. I've got to get rid of one of these pictures. It'll only let me have 10. Looks like you've got another picture. I've never seen this called kick from studio or banned from studio. I don't want it to be.
I can remove it if you. I can remove it too if you want, Kerry.
Oh, why don't you delete a couple of those early ones for me? See if it'll take them off.
Yeah, let's do this.
because I want to see the rest of these. This is fantastic basic info on how FLIR and infrared work. Okay.
Well, it's good for the public to see. It's good for the scientific community to see. I mean, it's something we haven't explained before about what we're looking at. And there was also some confusion, even with scientists, there's some confusion on this. John and I are trained in thermography, so we have an understanding of this type of equipment. And
thermal would be different from video.
Yes.
And the effects, well, or even the abilities of thermal would have advantages. See, that's why this little jewel here is so cotton picking valuable, in my opinion, because you have like 4, maybe 5 different types of detections, and they can all integrate. That helps you eliminate prosaics.
Exactly.
And you actually emphasize anomalies. Have I got that right?
Exactly. That's right. And the other thing is it tells us that if we're looking at something, we're not looking at an artifact because we're picking out several different kinds of camera systems. So so it eliminates artifacts.
That is a very excellent point. Yes, because that's another one of the issues with only, for instance, I'll use my own camera as an example. My Nikon. Now, it's a D7100. It's 12 years old, but in its day, it was 12th in the world, 6th in the world for cameras. It's a great camera, but it only is in the picture and video range. So I could have lens anomalies if I'm taking pictures at night of something.
Yes.
That could look like a UFO, especially if I'm out of focus. But your camera would be able to say, well, yes, it's fuzzy, it's a little bit hazy, but this particular part of the camera here, this other camera, is showing us, if it was FLIR or radar or whatever, that it's not just an artifact of the lens. There is genuinely there. We know it's there because this is coming from this spectrum, not that one.
Exactly. That's why that's another reason why we use these multispectral cameras. We're not fooled by lens glares and things like that.
Yes, exactly. That's the point. Yes, you say it so much better than I do. That is exciting. That is encouraging, because you have pictures or videos of the spectroscopic analysis of said anomalies that you'll be able to show us in the series.
Yes.
I'm going to lose sleep, gentlemen. This is what my audience and I have been looking for right here. The Tedesco Brothers. That is so interesting. So let me share one item real quick that I wanted to share, what I researched this morning real quick. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. I can do this. I can leave you on this and share the screen. I did a little bit of research also in the infrared photography idea, and I do want to share this with us. Yeah, you can see it.
Yes.
I'll just leave it at this. Those pictures, can you see me scrolling?
Yes.
Okay, so now none of these pictures are super crystal clear. And that's okay. They don't have to be, because this is in the infrared spectrum.
Right.
Now,
also, according to the camera, I mean, you can get very high grade cameras that you get really good resolution. Resolution is different according to what you're paying for.
Oh, that's true. And there's color differences, etc. So we're not worried about getting a realistic picture. However, that being said, there is no question that if you claimed, look, these trees are on my property. Here are infrared pictures showing you the trees on my property, because they're not clear, or because they're not the true color, or because the sky looks weird because the clouds are funky colors, or the pink leaf trees. All of this is CGI and fake. I would say no.
No, and
No,
It still establishes the reality of what the camera is picking
right,
up.
and the cameras,
Clear video or infrared. Am I
and
wrong with that?
yes, and it might be in a different. The camera can be set to different color palettes, so you can see more detail. Or you can see more resolution between the temperature variations in what you're seeing. But the big thing is you have plenty of structural detail in there and thermal detail to tell you what it is.
and the other thing too with the cameras, you got to kind of qualify the image sensors themselves, what they're capable of giving you. So they're of course they're designed to give you pretty good response curves when it comes to visible light. With the color spectrum from blue to red. When you fall outside that color spectrum, they call the QE curves, that sensitivity rating or that amplitude rating of the sensor drops off very quickly. And it may only be 20% or 40% of that QE response curve that these cameras are responding to, that infrared or that ultraviolet. And that's what's giving you that distortion. That pale looking object. It lacks detail. It lacks looks like it's fringing, or it lacks specific intensity. That's because the image intensifier, there's a gain control in there. The automatic gain control takes that low level signal and tries to boost it up to the noise level. And what happens is when you're looking at infrared that's falling outside that response and the ultraviolet, the automatic gain control within the camera tries to amplify those levels to a point of noise, to a point of distortion. So what manufacturers do is they put the very defined cutoffs in there. They say we don't want the consumer to see this stuff because it looks terrible.
Yeah.
But
even with that, my point is that with that aberration, that does not justify rejecting the evidence because it's not as clear as we want it. That is irrelevant. It is there. It is real. I took the picture of my trees tonight on my property. 4 nights from now, I can take the same picture and do that over and over, establishing the reality of the phenomenon without necessarily understanding it. But it is there, and it is an anomaly. That's what I'm trying to establish.
And I just want to mention something. We've had this discussion before. We've heard scientists who have rejected it. They dismiss it as a monochromatic fuzzy image, and we say, wait a minute. What kind of photograph is this? Is this a thermal photograph? Is this a visible light? It depends on the parameters of the camera system, and then of course there's a bunch of detail based on those parameters that we can certainly look at, and determine the how much information we're getting from that image,
right. And the other thing too is that those pictures that you took, you probably used IR cut filters and UV filters, bandpass filters, and that sort of thing. So those filters are deliberately blocking the good portion of the light that the camera is responsible or designed to respond to at the high levels. So you're allowing the minimum sensitivity of that imager to pass through, while those lenses, those filters, are blocking all that available activity. And it's only responding to roughly about 40 to 20% of that amplitude that's coming off that image sensor. And it's the gain circuits that are responsible to elevate that so you can see it. Some cameras respond better than others, and they do see a little bit deeper in the UV. They see a little bit deeper in the IR. But those kind of things, when you're deliberately taking that kind of photography, you have those kind of distortions.
Okay, so UFO Busters from the UFO Show Australia, good friend of mine, asks, is there a type of white light that our eyes can't see but our iPhones do see? Do you understand what he's asking?
Yeah, so the light itself, that white light or the luminous itself, the luminous intensity would be infrared. UV.
Cell phones have infrared.
Yes.
UV?
You know,
It's all
with yeah. So the white light talk about it's presented as white light on the camera, but it's IR. It's infrared. So the deep wells within the image sensor itself, you know, most of the time, you know, I'm looking at Sony IMX sensors that have enough gain to look at that low level sensitivity, and also that IR, bring out that IR.
So if my friend here, UFO from Australia, UFO Showbusters, if he takes video and pictures of his iPhone of UFOs, and it's somewhat, it doesn't have a good enough gain, it's somewhat blurry and all that, that is irrelevant to its reality. He's still getting the anomaly if he can verify it with an extra radar analysis or whatever. That's what your guys do. He probably doesn't have the equipment you do, but I'm just trying to establish that the theme that, well, no clear video, then there's no evidence. Time out. That's a little bit too narrow-minded. Exactly. And I have taken that route myself. That's why I'm so enjoying learning from you guys, because you've helped show me that severe overdone limitation I've been placing on clear videos or bust, that doesn't cut the mustard in this field. There is much more than just a clear video to establish the reality. That's what I'm trying to say.
Exactly. And that's why we like our approach is a forensic approach. It's a forensic science approach. And academia has their own approach. You know, I don't discard their approach, you know, but like I said, we're trained in forensics and we will follow the forensic science, which is a well-established science. You know, if it works in a courtroom, and we can qualify that data. We can qualify those things.
Yeah, well, there's quite a few people in the audience who are saying now that they're getting cameras in the sky, getting some recordings and stuff like that. That's really cool. If you guys can get a hold of me, I would like to take a look at your stuff as well in the audience. And it's kind of coinciding beautifully with now what you are bringing to the table here is we have multiple ways to discriminate, to challenge and change the mundane, everyday man-made stuff from stuff that could genuinely be anomalous. So I also wanted to say real quick, and wouldn't you know, it came on a news source right on my phone a couple days ago. And can I find that story again? No, it just showed up and then disappeared. It's out there. I'll have to see if I can find it. There is a new jet that just got unveiled. I believe it replaces, I think it's called the T-22. It's a TS-25, something like that. Anyway, this is not designed as a fighter jet. It is a new naval jet, trainer jet that flies at, is everyone sitting down? It flies at Mach 5. For our technology, we're talking greased like more than twice our former fastest flying jet. They want to use it for reconnaissance and spying, right? But let me just give a chintzy illustration. And I know this is amateur at best, and the reason I'm bringing this up is we're now going to have to be able to discriminate even better between human-made and a genuine anomaly. And here's why. The fastest jet we have, if we were to see it in the sky, will go like this. If it's pretty high, let's assume 20,000 feet. That's going pretty good. This new TS-25 is going to look like, and we need to be aware of this, something similar to this.
Yes.
And I guarantee you, without exception, it will be misidentified as a UFO. Day or night, doesn't matter. We just need to be aware that the technology has really gotten impressive, but it's not a UFO. Your broad spectrum analysis, however, could help us see that, oh yeah, that's human made.
Right.
Yes.
And
they all obey those same rules with this multispectral approach. We're looking at a bunch of different data points again.
Right. And the other thing too, don't ignore the sonic boom. Don't ignore the sonic boom.
And if it's moving at a supersonic, hypersonic speed, you're going to hear that sonic boom.
Right. There you go. Yes, sir.
That might be an indication.
And I also just mentioned, I mean, there's other jets that are coming out. I mean, there's an F-47 that's the latest technology that looks more like an SR-71 Blackbird. You know, there's a lot of things coming out. Like I said, but the thing is to look at, like I said, make an observation based on a multispectral approach.
Yeah. And that is so important. That's why I'm just so loving how you guys are expanding. You're continuing to produce new equipment. You're finding better, more relevant ways to help us grasp when an anomaly is an anomaly, because the phenomenon is real. We're past the point of asking, is this real, or is this just people on drugs making shit up?
Mm-hmm.
We think we've established, okay, there is something here. Now, what is it? Well, that's still, you know, we're even to the point to where we've been discussing with other researchers, and you can see YouTube videos, the many different types of species, etc., the different types of craft there are. Now, let me ask you real quick in closing, just straight out, your opinion, are orbs valid evidence? And if so, why? Because now even those are beginning to become dismissed. Boring. It's just orbs. Why this tiredness of the evidence? Are orbs valid evidence?
It depends on the context they're taken in and what kind of equipment was used to take them. The more detail we have of how it was taken will make the case.
And like Phil Jones says, the context, I mean, who's citing them? Is it a pilot seeing it at 35,000 feet, 38,000 feet? Is it something that's over the horizon, over the water, and airline pilots coming into a landing, an arrival at a local airport, sees them on their approach, or is it in the glide path somehow? The other thing is these objects, are they producing something interesting? Are they producing a chromatic change about them? Do they seem to be in rotation, which is we're seeing over and over and over again? We see a lot of videos out there, and it looks like our orbs. It's do you see these what looks like gravity wells? These dark areas, very dark areas around these rotating orbs. It's or are they just a halo of just a light? You know, a halo of light. Do they suddenly disappear? They look like starbursts. You know, these are the kind of things that people are seeing on a regular basis. They present themselves and they disappear, or they're moving instantaneously from one location to the other, and they see this. So,
and John's not. We're not talking about the kind of orbs you catch on a cell phone camera. You know, outside.
No.
People see things. I mean, things like, you know, whether it's bokeh or it's lens glares or lens flares, or, you know, the various optical effects from the, you know, the cell phone itself.
Right. And be conscious of that too.
The lens.
You know, when you see something bright, move the camera from side to side. See if that lens glare follows in the opposite direction.
Right. That's a lens. Yeah, that's typical of a lens.
So
glare
you're getting
flare.
a reflection from some source.
And some other light source. Yeah.
Right.
See that. Thank you. This is why I love you guys and your work, because there is so much more to studying and analyzing this than just seeing an orb, taking a video and saying, hey, I saw a UFO, and your mom and dad saying, bunk, it's just an orb. It's just the space station, or it's just this or that or whatever. Even though apparently Chris Bledsoe has mistaken the space station now for an orb. And so now everybody's jumping against him and saying, yeah, he's a whack-doodle and all that jazz. Well, I'm going to be able to talk to him here in about 10 or 11 days. And apparently he is planning a night outing, and you can bet your bottom dollar I'm going to be there. This will be fun. I'm not going to be there with my cell phone either. I'm going to use my, oh, hey, let me ask you guys. So I'm going I get to go orb hunting with Chris Bledsoe, the guy who claims he can call them in.
Excellent.
So would I be better using my night vision binoculars, or should I use my regular DSL cam, my Nikon, or this? I have a pair of night vision, and I've got a regular camera, and I've got a brand new cell phone that they say they've improved the video and the camera. But would the night binoculars be my best option to do that?
I would use both. I would use the night binoculars. I would use the other camera that you have. I think you call it a Canon.
The more pieces of equipment you have that show that object, that's your data points.
Right.
You want a data set. You want a full data set.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on, brothers. Okay. Yeah.
Cell phone cameras, you still got to worry about compression standards and that sort of thing, which, they still, if there's so much movement in the image, it does look terrible after a while. It's
yeah. Oh, and thank you, Carlos and Juliet. Yeah. I also have a C-Star S50 telescope. I will be having that at the Sky House. Yeah, that'll be, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Carlos. Appreciate that. Yeah, so, okay, good. I just wanted to see your reaction, interaction. Thank you for sharing your idea on the, I mean, it's so important, and it doesn't matter. It's so important to have the context for these orbs, because it appears to me that has become, shall we say, more prominent for those who are looking for UAP. Even you guys have seen orbs now.
That's the most common object. And even if you look at the Arrow report, that's the most common object seen, is the orb, the spherical object.
You genuinely don't think you're mistaking that for the space station or satellites or any. No. You genuinely think they're orbs.
Yes, and the other thing is we're using
alien beings, but I mean an anomaly. You really,
yes. And the other thing we're using is, of course, we're using the various constellation apps. We're using the Stellarium, the space apps, so we're looking at the constellation star maps and everything else. We're also using Mara apps, maritime applications to look at boating traffic. We're looking at various ADSB software packages, look at transponder data. We're looking at, like I says, there's a whole stream of things that we're looking at.
Yeah, I'm using my Stellarium app also. In fact, in some of my recordings that I posted online, I tell folks, I said, oh, there's something going zinging off to the right. Stay calm. It's a satellite. My Stellarium says it's satellite 3496.
Yeah. Well, we've still had people challenge us on it and say, well, you're taking a picture of the forward lights of a plane coming in, and it's in a holding pattern. No, well, we know what holding patterns look like. We segregate the areas. We know where the flight corridor is. We segregate it.
Yeah, and
nice, very
intelligent. And in all fairness, to be fair to them, yes, when these planes are in holding patterns, they do look like stationary lights. They can look like stationary lights, but that's where the thermal cameras come in. That's where we have the advantage of using radar. So, we're scanning out in the skies. We're looking for those returns.
Again, we're using
ADSB, looking at
we're using multiple data points and a full, to establish a full data set before we qualify that.
Yeah. Very good, man. That's why I'm so excited about this upcoming series. Now, I want to tell the audience, you guys and I have talked behind the scenes. We will get together again. Now, I'm going off. I won't be back until, I'm not leaving for a week, but I won't be back until the first week of June. Right. But in the meantime, these gentlemen are putting together this series of informative videos on the science of the UAPs, their propulsion systems of the UAPs, etc. So we're not going to immediately get started on this series of videos. We don't know how many yet we're going to do, but we are going to do a steady stream of information that helps we, the public, learn, distinguish, and actually see the difference with the data. We're not going to just talk about it. We will have the data. And I mean, I'm not kidding. We will have the data and be able to explain it, etc. And so be patient with us while we put this together. I asked it, and thank you for doing this on such short notice. That is very, very kind of you. I know my audience loves you. But I asked them just late last night, could you come on tomorrow? And here they are. That's how dedicated these guys are. That's why you got a special place in my heart. But we will put this together as we can. So please be patient with us. It might be, maybe we can put 2 or 3 of them together so that we can show, one a week for 3 straight weeks or whatever, or maybe even 2 in a week each week but we'll keep working on it to refine it, improve it, put this together, because we want this to be significant, because academia has begun, and I'm going to emphasize begun. Don't start getting all excited yet, but we are thrilled with this. Academia has begun contacting the Tedescos and saying, hey, we wrote a paper and I watched your video, and you're saying what we're saying, but you're actually showing it on your radar? Wait a minute. We need to get together. We will be bringing in those academics in this series. It's beginning to gel. We would hope, and I'm not trying to disparage academia. There is still, too much politics, would you say, too much ego with academia. In this particular issue, the Tedesco brothers have had sincere breakthroughs. And now, I'm not an academician, a scientist, an engineer. I've done some reading. I'm not stupid. I'm not over intelligent, but I've done my homework through the years. I know how to think a little bit. Based on what I've heard, the capability of the Tedescos goes far beyond what we'll ever see or get in academic white papers, but that doesn't mean they're not necessary. The academic white paper is important. The books. Just because people write books, I mean, the Tedesco's own book, does not mean they're grifters. Dismiss them. That approach is old. I've seen it for 6 months. I reject that at this point. And I get it. If you want to be so skeptical, you call anybody who wants to make a dime off at grifters. That's your prerogative. But we are not that. I mean, if you think I'm getting rich off this, are you freaking kidding me, man? I'll trade any of you with your jobs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just want to add one more thing to what we were talking about. Evidence is John and I remain transparent. The whole Nightcrawler team, we remain transparent, and we've had open invitations to scientists out there, and we've for the 4 years we've been out there, we've had physicists out there, we've had anthropologists out there, we've had forensic investigators out there, we had aviation experts out there, we had astronomers out there, we had medical doctor out there. We've had a lot of scientific experts, and lots of scientists out there, engineers, aerospace experts.
I know of a pharmacist, Robert Sheep. Yep. He's a pharmacist. People are out there.
And we demonstrated our equipment. They were able to see what we were doing and what we weren't doing. And for us, we audit ourselves. We do that in our own industry to make sure that we're staying honest in the quality of the work we're doing.
Right.
This is our quality assurance.
And sometimes a competitor audits you, in the industry.
Yeah.
It's this. It keeps everybody honest.
Yeah.
Well, and I get and understand, and I'm actually good with it to a point of people are investing not a small amount of money in this equipment, and it would be pleasant to be able to do what we're doing, make enough money to buy the equipment and keep us alive and keep going so that we can keep doing this, because you have advanced the ability in ufology to keep it real. And that is my motto. I think that's why I'm so attracted to you guys. I've always told my audience from the day I got on this camera, this YouTube course, I just want what's real. That's all I'm looking for. I'm not into flash and fancy and all that. In fact, I'm rather redneckish and hicky, but it's all good. I don't care. I just want to see what's real. And I'm seeing that capability here because of your equipment and your capability. But that takes money. And so it's okay if there's some competition, but not to the point to where we are specifically undermining each other. We need to connect and core. That's what the government does, guys. The government puts in so many stupid departments who are so secretive that the CIA doesn't know what the FBI doesn't know, what the DOJ doesn't know, what the DOD doesn't know, what the DUMB doesn't know, what the STUPID government departments are doing and no one's getting anywhere. But they do one thing really damn good. They keep it all secret. Well, that's not helping.
Exactly.
We need to coordinate now. And that's why we're enjoying your work. And if Jake Barber will begin getting serious about showing some evidence instead of talking about it, that would be nice. It would be real nice. In the meantime, we still do study. It's very important to keep a context of older materials from the government, from the military, Heineck and all that. That is not a waste of time, but we're moving forward within a context of enlarging the capabilities. And this is why I'm excited to go to Contact in the Desert. This is why I'm so thrilled that you've asked me to do this series you're putting together with the academics that you know now who have recognized your work is verifying some of their speculation based on valid mathematics and physics. Speculation, we all acknowledge that. But there is now evidence, radar, FLIR, whatever, that actually can correlate to that speculation. So we're not talking just fancy gone amok. We're not talking just science fiction, woo-woo and stupidity. No, we're getting past that to where, hey, this could be a valid point. This could be a valid approach. That's why we're excited for this video series coming up. So
I just want to make a shout out to the UAPX team who just published their paper.
Absolutely.
To Dr. Kevin Knuth, Dr. Matthew Zedegas, their team Kevin Day, Gary Voorhees, and I'm not going to miss names, but their entire team. The great work and what they did. They were able to publish their pilot study of Catalina Island.
Yeah, big congratulations to them.
And we also congratulations.
He's good. He's really
congratulations also to the Hestlin Project too. They're revamping the Hestlin study with engineer Erling Strand and doing a good job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. We'll find out where that is being published. I'll get with you guys and you can tell me and I'll put it in the link description and all that jazz. So anyway, thank you so much. This to me is a very necessary basis. We have to start at the ground level for a series to be able to be understood. We understand there were a few people in the audience, and it's a legitimate observation. I'm not criticizing them, I promise. But there's nothing new here. That wasn't the intent of today. The intent of today was to emphasize that this is the basis for being able to move forward, and we have that basis. This is no longer in the fantasy, oh, you're just wishful thinking realm. We have the basis now of moving it forward in a real way. And that's why we're excited for this project. So, and we will include the science, the academics, the engineering, the skeptics. This is going to be fun. I am very, very excited for this. So, any last words, gentlemen, before we head out?
Yes, hopefully we move to a more constructive collaboration with other team members, and let's recognize each other's work, even Skywatch's work. Hopefully, like it says, wish them luck.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Very good. All right, audience. We love y'all. Thank you for watching, and love your support and patronage and excitement and enthusiasm. I love your skepticism. I love your belief. I love your hopes. I love it when you can change your attitude based on evidence, whether to a believing spectrum or a skeptical spectrum. My idea is, let's get to the reality. Let's get to the truth, and let's try to check our biases. This is one of the best ways through the science of multi-sense modality that we can do exactly that. We're not wishful thinking, we're exploring, and we love having you along with us for the ride. Okay, that's enough of patting you on the back and saying we love you, but my audience really does rock, as my guests do. So we will catch up to all of you just as soon as we can. Have a great rest of the Sunday.